Hello everybody, my name is Bynum, Boley. For the next 5 minutes, I want to talk to you about an identity crisis we're having within sustainable tourism. And it's over to, should we travel or not travel based upon the net positive or negative impact from one's trip. I want to talk about the historical way of thinking, which has been on maximizing the positive benefits of one's trip across the triple bottom line within the destination, so it's been locally focused historically. But now with all these emissions associated with travel, there's a new camp of people saying maybe we should not ought to travel based upon these emissions. So that's what the talk of my presentation will be, these two different camps, and then I have a framework hopefully to bring them together and start talking to one another so we can make travel more sustainable overall. So the first is this historical perspective that the goal is to maximize the benefits of tourism across the triple bottom line. So you're talking about environmental sustainability, economic sustainability, and the impacts of tourism across society. It's a local focus. I love this picture of the Tetons here because it really encapsulates what tourism can bring to a community. You have tourism helping with the local economy. You have tourism as an incentive for environmental protection. You have tourism as an incentive to protect the cultural heritage aspects of communities. So this is the historical point of view, kind of trying to maximize the positive benefits, kind of pro-travel. Well, now you have this new emphasis on tourism's greenhouse gas emissions and people saying maybe we ought not to travel. These are old numbers, but these are the total CO2 emissions. 5% are attributed to tourism. 14% of all greenhouse gas emissions is attributed to tourism. You can see this in the Costa Rica example, 4% of UGA's total emissions from travel. So it's a big issue. And it's created a lot of skeptics saying, can it be sustainable with these levels of emissions? Hoyer writes, strict measures to reduce the volume of international travel by tourists are needed. Rosenthal calls for the need to break our flying addiction. And Hall and Kennard say that travel to destinations undertaken in fuel-hungry airplanes is in itself incompatible with sustainability. So you see these kind of two different camps within the sustainable tourism literature right now. So it creates a real dilemma. You know, one side's going to say, well, tourism really benefits local communities, especially some of the least economically developed countries in the world. It's a strategy for economic development to lift people out of poverty. It's also a strategy for the protection of important natural areas, such as big game in Africa, or cultural heritage traditions that are maybe being eroded by globalization. The other camp's going to say the impacts of anthropogenic climate change are too high, you know, with sea level rise and sea ice melting. So that's the dilemma we have here. So instead of kind of bickering about to travel or not to travel, I think we should look at it holistically, and I've created a framework for increasing tourism sustainability. First, this is a hypothetical framework. I haven't been able to operationalize it. If you want to find a way to help me, that would be great. But your overall travel impact is going to be a function of a few different things here. First, it's going to be these local triple bottom line impacts. So what you actually bring to the destination. It could be positive, it can be negative, but it's across that triple bottom line, the environmental impacts, the social cultural impacts, and the economic impacts of your trip. We actually want to have a handprint here. Somebody talks about handprint versus footprint. So you actually want to bring with you a lot of benefits to maybe offset the negative impacts of your trip. But you also have these global climate impacts from your travel. And the first thing you need to note here is that you need a net greenhouse gas emissions from your travel. Most people just say, hey, travel has this many greenhouse gas emissions associated with it, and don't subtract what you're not doing at home. Maybe you're not commuting. Maybe you're not running your air conditioning. Maybe you're actually not eating imported food. You're eating local Costa Rican food when you're on your trip. So actually tourism might not be as bad as everybody claims with emissions because you might be acting you know, more locally and having lower emissions when you're traveling. But you need to account for these emissions while at home. So it's a two-pronged attack. You can focus on making your trip more sustainable, or you can focus on lowering your greenhouse gas emissions at the same time. There's plenty of limitations with this framework. It's hard to say one type of impact is greater than the other, and the climate impacts actually have real local impacts with them as well. But I don't think it's fair to say you shouldn't travel just because of greenhouse gas emissions, or you should travel just because of the impacts you bring to the community. You need to bring them together into one framework. Thank you.